I wasn't planning to ruin my appetite that night until I followed the girl with the smile everyone trusted. In Olorunshogo, pepper soup is not just food, it is comfort, it is medicine, it is what warms the body when the night becomes too heavy. And that was why nobody ever suspected Shade. Shade arrived like someone destiny had carefully packaged. Beautiful, soft spoken, always smiling. Her pepper soup stand sat at the edge of the night market, where smoke, laughter, and hunger mixed freely. People swore a soup tasted different, not spicy, not rich, but unforgettable. Men abandoned other stores. Women came back secretly. Drivers changed their routes. Everyone wanted Sade's pepper soup, but there was something nobody questioned: water. Every vendor fetched water from the borehole behind the market. Everyone, except Sade. When a drum ran low, she never carried a bucket, never called for help. She would only smile and say, I will sort it. That night, curiosity overcame caution, and hunger made it worse. I followed her. She walked past the borehole, past the stores, past the places light refused to stay. Then she turned behind the abandoned public toilet, the one elders warned us about, the one built on forbidden ground. And there was the drum, filled with thick, unmoving water, water that looked like it had forgotten how to flow. Shade knelt calmly, dipped a jerrycan, and hummed. Back at the stand, she poured the water into the pot. The soup hissed. The steam rose. Pepper swallowed every doubt. Customers lined up, unaware, trusting, hungry. That night, half the market fell sick, and nobody blamed Chade because beauty is the most convincing disguise. People think evil things announce themselves. They don't. They cook, they smile, they serve you with clean hands. By the time Sade vanished, Olorunshogo was already damaged. Long before Sade arrived, the dreams had begun. Dreams of stagnant water, dreams of a woman stirring an invisible pot, dreams of humming in the dark. But nobody understood until the elders spoke. Iyagba, the oldest woman in the town, revealed the truth. Shade was not careless. Shade was not wicked. Shade was chosen. Before the abandoned toilet, that ground had been a feeding place, not for gods, but for something older, something that fed on rejection, waste, shame, what humans discarded. When the government sealed the place with concrete, the hunger did not die. Hungry things do not die, they negotiate. Far away, a desperate family once made a bargain, not for wealth, but for survival. And hungry things never asked for goods. They asked for a daughter not yet born. Shade entered the world already owned. A beauty was no blessing, it was the sign. Her instructions came through dreams. Her task was simple: feed it through the most welcoming art humans know: food. The toilet water was never death, it was offering. Every bowl served was a ritual. And the town did not merely fall sick, it was being prepared. Because Sade was never the danger, she was the doorway. The first person to notice was a child. Children do not ignore what adults learn to silence. Little Tomiwa stopped sleeping, not crying, not screaming, just listening. She is cooking, he said. Night after night, the sound returned, soft, rhythmic, like a spoon turning inside a pot. Only those who ate the soup could hear it. Others heard nothing. Then the dreams came back, but this time they were clearer. A kitchen without walls, a fire without light, a pot that never cooled, and a woman wearing Sade's face. Tomiwa began humming, exactly like her. When his mother tried to stop him, the boy only said, I am learning. That was when the elders understood the final horror. The entity had never fell through the water. It fell through acceptance, through consumption, through those who welcomed it into their bodies. Sade had not poisoned the town. She had marked vessels, future doorways, carriers. One night, Tomiwa's mother shook him awake in the terror. The boy opened his eyes, still, silent, and the humming continued through his lips, even though his lips did not move. By morning, Olorunshogo understood. Sade had never been the end. She had been the beginning because hungry things do not need places. They only need mouths willing to open. And so, my people, remember this. Not everything that looks clean is pure. Not every smile carries kindness, and not every sweetness is safe to swallow. For in this world, some dangers do not chase you, they wait patiently for your invitation. In our place, elders say something terrifying about unseen things. They say the most dangerous spirits are not the ones that visit, but the ones that settle. By the time Olorishogo understood this, it was already too late. The human did not grow louder. That would have been mercy. Instead, it grew closer. At first, nothing dramatic happened. No floating objects, no screaming winds, only small impossibilities. Spoons missing from kitchens, empty pots found overturned at dawn, people waking with the taste of pepper in their mouths, even those who had not eaten the soup. Then came the shadows. Villagers began noticing something wrong at sunset. Some people's shadow no longer matched their movements. A woman would raise a hand and the shadow hesitated, as if waiting for permission. Fear spreads quietly in Nigerian towns. Nobody announces panic, but conversations changed. Eyes lingered longer, and nobody likes sleeping alone. Little Tomiwa stopped humming, which was worse, because silence in matters like this is never empty. His mother said the boy now listened constantly, head tilted, eyes distant, like someone receiving instructions from far away. One night, she woke to a sound inside the room, soft, wet, rhythmic. It was not human, it was stirring. There are moments in every curse when the invisible becomes undeniable. For Lorshobo, that night arrived without warning. Tomiwa's mother watched in frozen terror as the mat beside the child began to sink. Not collapse, not tear, sink, as though the ground beneath it had turned to thick liquid. And from that impossible darkness, steam began to rise. Pepper scented, warm, alive. The boy did not struggle, did not scream. He only whispered something no mother should ever hear. She is ready. By morning, the town was paralyzed. The elders attempted rituals, prayers, sacrifices, appeals to forces older than fear itself. But hungry things that feed through acceptance obey different laws. They do not retreat, they transfer. Because the entity no longer needed Shade, no longer needed the toilet, no longer needed the soup. It had learned a far more permanent doorway, human vessels. People began noticing the final horror too late. The human was no longer coming from outside, no longer from dreams, no longer from distant corners. It was coming from within homes, within walls, within bodies. Some swore they felt something moving inside their chest at night, slow, circular, patient, like a spoon turning endlessly in a pot. And that was when Olorishogo learned the truth elders fear most. Once a hungry thing learns to live inside humans, there is no longer a town to cleanse, only a generation to inherit. In Olorishogo, elders have a saying about curses. They say, when a misfortune refuses to end, it is no longer an event, it has become an inheritance. By the time we understood this, the children had already begun to change. Years passed, markets reopened. People tried, as humans always do, to continue living beside what they do not understand. By the time the town was never truly the same because the human never truly left. It only grew familiar. Children born long after Sade's disappearance began exhibiting strange habits. A girl staring empty bowls absent-mindedly, a boy humming in his sleep, infants smiling at dark corners. No one spoke openly, but fear had settled into something worse than panic, acceptance. Hungry things evolve, they adapt, they refine their survival. The entity no longer announced itself through sickness that had been too obvious, too crude. Instead, it became subtle, quiet, patient. People lived normal lives, worked, married, laughed, yet something always felt slightly unfinished, as though the town itself were holding its breath. Among the new generation was a boy named Damilola, quiet, observant, unnaturally calm. Unlike Tomiwa, Damilola did not fear the human. He listened with curiosity, with recognition. One evening, his grandmother found him sitting along the kitchen, moving his hands slowly in the air, circular, steady. "What are you doing?" she asked. The boy smiled quietly and gave an answer that froze her spirit. "I am remembering." The elders finally reached the conclusion they had long dreaded. This was no longer a haunting, no longer possession, no longer an intrusion. The entity had achieved permanence. For spirits that feed on acceptance, there is no greater victory than becoming indistinguishable from those who host it. It was no longer among them. It was within their lineage. And that was the final horror of Olorshogo. Sade had never been the tragedy, nor the sickness, nor the human. The true calamity was normalization. For when a generation grows up knowing the darkness as ordinary, they no longer resist it, they inherit it. And so, my dear people, remember the story when sweetness feels too perfect, when charm feels too effortless, when something unsettling becomes easy to ignore. For not all curses arrive with violence. Some arrive gently, patiently, smiling. And the most dangerous evil of all is the one that no longer needs to hide. The moral lesson is guard what you consume, guard what you welcome, guard what you dismiss. For in this world, not every danger comes to destroy, some come to belong. Thank you for watching. Bye.